Hey everyone, do you notice something about this DSA panel discussion?
This is actually something that we committed to at convention, having our endorsed candidates supporting the program. It's a requirement now, and so that'll be incorporated into our endorsement process.
Or how about this image from a DSA event recently? I'm Rich Lowry of National Review, and a common theme from that little video clip there and that image, white people, right? A lot of white people, small sample size, but this is very characteristic of the Democratic Socialist of America and is a key part of the phenomenon that is sweeping the Democratic Party. We've seen it in New York City. We've seen it in cities out west. We're seeing it in bigger races now. There's a socialist candidate in Michigan who has a real chance to win the Democratic primary out there, and a poll in that race underlined this phenomenon. So in the race out there, we have the establishment candidate, a woman named Haley Stevens, and the radical socialist candidate, a guy named Abdul El Sayed. He has been quite competitive in this race. A new poll from the Detroit News shows him trailing a bit, though, and the internal demographics of this poll very telling. Stevens' strengths in the poll are with black voters, 67% to El Sayed's 21%, non-college educated voters, 56% to El Sayed's 34%, voters age 44, Metro Detroit voters, and traditional Democrats. On the other hand, he's getting the most support from white voters, 51% to 39, college educated voters, 48 to 41, outstate voters, a Michigan term there, those under 55, and likely primary voters who identify, of course, as Democratic Socialists. So this just shows, even though the Socialists pride themselves on supposedly representing the interests of people of color and the working class, these aren't the members of the DSA, and these, by and large, aren't the voters for DSA candidates. If socialism ever comes to America, it will be college-educated white people driving the revolution. Let's look a little bit more about what we know about the membership of the DSA. The New York Times had a good rundown on this a couple weeks ago, a piece called A Working Class Party Without Many Workers. It notes that in 2021, the DSA surveyed its members and found that 85% were non-Hispanic white, far more than the national population, which was about 60%, 9% Hispanic, 5% Asian, and 4% Black. 4% of the members held blue-collar jobs. According to the survey, nearly 6 out of 10 DSA members held professional jobs, 58%. The remainder were students or were unemployed or disabled. DSA members were far better educated than the average American. More than 80% of members who are 25 years or older had college degrees. That's more than double the percentage of the U.S. as a whole. And 35% had a master's degree, a doctorate, or a professional degree. Again, more than double the American average. Now, some DSA advocates say, well, look, that survey was from several years ago. The party has grown since then, but we do have a survey from a New Jersey chapter that shows much the same. In February of last year, the Central New Jersey DSA chapter published results of a membership survey, found that nearly 70% of the members identify as white only, 8% identify as Hispanic or Latinx, less than the New Jersey demographic of nearly 23%. And 4.5% identified as Black, less than the New Jersey demographic of 10.6%. The authors of the study lamented this chapter is underrepresented by individuals identifying as non-white, Hispanic, Latinx, and Black/of African descent. Hispanic and Black communities are most affected by capitalism and have unique challenges white organizers may not recognize or properly address. Underrepresentation leads to a burden of diversity within the chapter. We've seen the same breakdown in recent DSA electoral victories. The marquee congressional race in New York City was won by the Mamdani-backed Darliza Avila Chevrolet. She unseated an incumbent, had been around for a while, and is actually chairman of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. Here's the breakdown of her victory. She won majority college-educated areas, 58 to 38, and higher income areas, 51 to 45, while the incumbent won lower income areas 52 to 42 and majority Hispanic areas 56 to 40. She barely edged him out in the Black precincts, 48 to 46. Then you have another DSA candidate, Claire Valdez, same thing. She won a crushing victory in her primary, won 62 to 28 in her district's high-income neighborhoods and 64 to 27 in high education areas, and then lost the low-income section 63 to 31. Brad Lander also unseated the incumbent Dan Goldman, same exact thing. He carries the high-income and high education precinct 70 to 30. Goldman wins the low-income neighborhoods 57 to 43. So what's driving this? Well, you have a lot of these white voters. They're well educated, but they don't feel as though they've achieved the station in life that they would have expected. They might be downwardly mobile. They certainly have trouble affording things or the lifestyle that they would like. but they're not losers. They're not sitting on a couch with a bong on a coffee table all day doing nothing, unemployed, taking disability. No, they have real jobs. They might be an associate professor somewhere. They're organized. They are highly into politics, and they go out and vote. And that's a key aspect of this, because many of these DSA victories are coming in primaries that are extremely low turnout. So if you have part of your base people who are highly committed to going out and voting for you, that's going to be a huge strength. Now, there's some people who look at these candidates, Mamdani, Chevrolet, and say, oh, this is an immigrant-driven phenomenon. No, it's mostly a white-driven phenomenon. Now, the candidates tend to have immigrant backgrounds. They tend to be the sons or daughters of immigrants and tend to have an academic background in some form or another. Mamdani, the son of a famous academic. Chevrolet has been in a PhD program. So that's the profile of those candidates. But again, it is a white phenomenon, a college educated phenomenon. And why is that? Well, that's because the DSA takes wild positions that have no appeal to the working class or to more moderate Democrats. So while some working class voters might find left-wing economics appealing, they tend to be turned off by the cultural stuff. They're not into the trans agenda. They are not into open borders. And the DSA has extreme positions on all those cultural issues, limiting its working class appeal. And then also people tend not to realize Black Democrats tend to be a moderate constituency within the Democratic Party. Joe Biden, who is a relatively moderate Democratic candidate in 2020, wouldn't have won that primary without the support of Black voters who made a very practical choice in going with him. As someone pointed out on X the other day, it's true to simplify that basically all Black voters are Democrats, and the median Black voter is to the left of the median white voter in the general election, but still the median Black voter is to the right or more moderate than the median white Democrat. And that's what we see in this DSA phenomenon. Now, the DSA, they may be Democrats, they're certainly socialist, but they are not a working class movement. This is a phenomenon by and for relatively well-educated white people. Now, that might be devastating to the DSA's self-image, but it is the truth. Hey, by the way, comment, like, or subscribe. I promise you won't regret it. I'm Rich Lowry. Over and out.